My name is Chris Opitz, not him, me. I'm a former member of the non-podcasting class raised by a working class couple. Dad, former soldier. Mom, working various jobs in accounting. The year I turned 28 as the host of my own podcast. Published 50 episodes, which really pissed me off because it was too shy of an episode a week. Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to Cinematic Reviews. As always, I'm your host, Chris, and this is a show about all things movies and TV. Got another awesome episode for you today. We're going to go over some box office news as well as 4 movie reactions. I think is the most that I've done so far on the show at once. Then we'll get into today's featured film, which is The Wolf of Wall Street from Martin Scorsese, starring Leonardo DiCaprio as Jordan Belfort, aka The Wolf of Wall Street. It's a film that I've been waiting to do ever since I started this podcast, and I can't believe that we are finally here. So I'm going to have a lot of fun talking about one of my favorite movies of all time. Then we'll wrap things up like we always do on the show with some rankings. I'll go over my top 5 Leo rankings as well as ranking Martin Scorsese's film. And then we'll go to another blockbuster showdown between The Social Network and The Wolf of Wall Street. Reminder at the top of the episode, you can watch the show every week at youtube.com/the cinematic reviews. You can also listen to the audio version on your favorite podcast platform. Then you can follow the show on social media at X, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also check out my new podcast, The End Zone Report, which is where I tackle the NFL once a week with all the latest news, predictions of the games coming up, and some fantasy stats as well for all you fantasy football players out there. That pretty much rounds out the announcements for today. So let's head into news and reactions. So the current box office stands like this. We've got Weapons at $64 million, which I'll be talking about here shortly. The Bad Guys 2, sequel to the hit animated movie, is sitting at $49 million, just shy of $50 million. Freakier Friday, the sequel to the beloved original, starring Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, where they switch bodies, that is sitting at $40 million currently. The Naked Gun with Liam Neeson is at $37 million. Together, starring Dave Franco and Allison Brie. One of the new horror movies come out this summer is sitting at $18 million. And that looks about it. Kind of going over the previous ones. We've got Superman. Where is that sitting at? That is sitting at 586. That is currently on digital right now, so that won't be grossing much more tickets there. So that's probably a final one. Same thing with Jurassic World Rebirth. That is sitting at 800 million. That also is on streaming, so that won't be gaining much ground from there. So that looks like the final tally for that box office. The Fantastic Four for Steps is sitting at 442 million. That'll be out in theaters for a few more weeks, I think. So maybe it'll hit the $500 million mark by that. Then F1, the movie, that is sitting at 579 million worldwide. I believe that one's still in theaters, but they'll probably be pulling that one here shortly as well. So that might be the cap for that one. So that is your current box office right now. Let's head over to some of the reactions that I'm going to do. I'm going to do Weapons, Wednesday Season 2, Death of a Unicorn, which is also starring Jenna Ortega, and then The Pickup, the new Amazon Prime film starring Eddie Murphy and Pete Davidson. So we're going to start with Weapons. Weapons is one of the summer's biggest horror films that stars Julia Gardner, Josh Brolin, Alden Ehrenreich, Scarlett Schur, and a bunch of other people. It is directed by Zach Kreger, who previously directed the surprise hit Barbarian. And it sounds like he is not stopping from here. He's got sequel plans for Weapons, as well as another original film that he wants to tackle. Weapons is about a small town where kids start disappearing, all from the same class in elementary school. Only one ended up not being taken. There's a bunch of twists and turns throughout it. I won't spoil anything about it, but I really, really like this film. I think Zach Kreger is going to be a permanent horror director, sort of like Jordan Peele is now, where they just kind of come out of nowhere. Danny McBride is another one that's kind of made his stamp on the horror genre. But I really like Weapons. It's an amazing movie. I love the cinematography in it. The acting is great. The story is very engaging. The twists catch you off guard, even though I did kind of figure out who was behind it all pretty early on in the movie. But I think an average moviegoer will really enjoy the twists in this film. Josh Brolin is incredible. Julia Gardner, who is also starring in the Fantastic Four as the Silver Surfer, she is incredible in there. We get other appearances from Benedict Wong from the Marvel universe. Yeah, it was a really, really awesome movie. I was not expecting it to like it as much as I did. I'm giving it 5 popcorn buckets on the popcorn bucket scale. So really well done. One of my favorite horror movies of the year. I think Sinners is still my favorite, but this is a close second for sure. Um, Switching over to a TV series, that is Wednesday. Season 2 is out now on Netflix. This, of course, stars Jenna Ortega as Wednesday Addams. Everyone pretty much comes back. Thing returns. The entire Addams family returns with Catherine Zeta-Jones as Wednesday's mother. Louise Guzman returns as Guzman returns as Gomez Adams. This is kind of picking up where season 1 left off, with Tyler, the shapeshifter, terrorizing Evermore School. We get some newcomers like Steve Buscemi as the new principal. Christine Ricci returns in her role as being kind of the handler of Tyler, who was the villain of the first series. But it's only the first 4 episodes are out now. The next 4 will be coming out on September 3rd, so we'll see how this second season wraps up. Lady Gaga is rumored to be popping up in here as well. We get the return of Fester, played by Ahmed Amistad, who is fantastic as Fester. We get Gammy, the grandmother, Adams, showing up as well to help out Wednesday. Yeah, it's a really good start to the season. I really, really liked season 1. This one is kind of not as, I want to say, fresh or exciting as that first season, but it's still very, very good. Jenna Ortega is outstanding as Wednesday Addams, and I'm really curious to see how they wrap up the season. So far, I'm giving it 5 popcorn buckets, even though it's a little bit less on the ranking scale for season 1. But I think Wednesday season 2 is still phenomenal. We're going to see. I'll adjust the ranking as the last 4 episodes come out. But right now, Wednesday season 2 is sitting at 5 popcorn buckets on the scale. Another Jenna Ortega film that came out earlier this year that I was finally able to watch. This also stars Paul Rudd. Death of a Unicorn. Really peculiar and very original horror movie about Paul Rudd is the father of Jenna Ortega's character. They end up running over a unicorn on their way to a business meeting with a rich family out in the country. The unicorn, of course, did not care for this, so it came back and started murdering everybody at the house. Will Poulter shows up as the son of the rich family. Tia Leone is the mother. Very incredible cast, a very interesting story. I love the action. It's very violent. The unicorn's design looked really, really cool. It started making this connection with Jenna Ortega's character, so there's kind of a bond there. But yeah, it was really cool. The basis of them is they're trying to find the cure to cancer, essentially. When they discover through the dead unicorn that Paul Rudd accidentally ran over, they found out that the blood of the unicorn is a cure for cancers and all these other diseases. The father of the family, played by, let me see, Richard E. Grant. You probably recognize him as one of the Lokis from the Marvel Universe and a bunch of other movies that he's been in. He is suffering from cancer. They inject the unicorn blood into his body, and he is cured of the disease, and he's even healthier than he was before. So then they start to talk about marketing and making profits of it, yada, yada, yada. The unicorn comes to life and starts murdering everybody. Jenna Ortega is trying to get them to understand that we can't contain these unicorns. They need to be let out into the wild and kind of live their own lives. So it's a horror movie, but it's also kind of like a pharmaceutical company. Let's make a bunch of money off of this interesting, thing. But it's a really interesting movie. You can definitely tell that Paul Rudd was heavily invested into this movie. I think he was a producer on it. But yeah, you can watch this on Max, Prime Video. I think Disney Plus or Hulu might have it. I ended up buying it on Fandango at home for like $10. I figured, why not add that to the Paul Rudd collection, add it to the Jenna Ortega collection. But it's really cool. So definitely check it out. I am giving this, let me pull up here, 4 popcorn buckets on the scale. So very good. Very, very much enjoyed it. It kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting to like it as much. Very similar to Weapons, but it's a really good movie. So definitely check it out. The final reaction on the list is The Pickup, which, like I said at the top of the episode, stars Eddie Murphy and Pete Davidson. It is a Amazon Prime original film that came out a couple of weeks ago. They are Pete Davidson, Eddie Murphy are armored car drivers that do pickups for banks. They get sucked into this heist, which is led by Keke Palmer's character. She is out for revenge on her father's wrong death during a casino incident. So she is using the armored truck that Eddie Murphy and Pete Davidson are in charge of driving from bank to bank to use it to rob the casino that she wants to get revenge on. Turns out Pete Davidson had a one-night stand with Keke Palmer before this all happened, and kind of gave all the information she needed as far as routes and everything to take over this armored car. It's very Fast and Furious like almost, with a little hint of maybe like Tower Heist, if you've ever seen that one. That's another Eddie Murphy movie with Matthew Broderick. A little bit of Mission Impossible mixed in there. Basically any heist movie that you can think of, this is kind of pulling inspiration from. But it was I really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. It's not one of the best well-made movies. It's really led by Pete Davidson's humor and Eddie Murphy's charm and the history that we have with his comedy movies. But Keke Palmer has been a really awesome person to add to these movies. I really like her. She's one that I didn't really grow up watching, but as she is doing all these various projects, I'm starting to really, really like her, seeing her pop up in these various movies. So The Pickup, I'm giving 3 popcorn buckets on the scale. Like I said, not the best movie ever made, but it's definitely a really good comedy to just kind of turn your brain off and have a lot of fun with. So check The Pickup out on Amazon Prime today. That's going to do it for the news and reaction segment of today's show. Let's get to our featured film, The Wolf of Wall Street.
My name is Jordan Belfort. The year I turned 26, I made $49 million, which really pissed me off because it was 3 shy of $1 million a week.
We're making a name for ourselves.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles. You know what a fugazi is?
Oh, Fugazi, it's fake.
Hey, Fugazi, Fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust.
Was all this legal? Absolutely not. We were making more money than we knew what to do with.
We don't work for you, man.
You have my money taped to your boobs. Technically, you do work for me.
What's wrong, Daddy?
But watching you bring home.
Oh my God. FBI. Any kind of booze you might want? No, the Bureau forbids us from drinking. Duh.
So follow me, I could out the door. I'm doing 500, I'm out of control. But there's nowhere to go. And there's no way to slow. If I knew what I knew in the past, I would have been like that on your.
How does this actually work?
There's a big money sign.
They get launched at the time, they stick.
This is their gift, okay? They're built to be thrown like a lawn dart.
Stop. Okay?
Safety first.
Safety is first. We don't want to get a bad reputation.
And I'm zoning, I think I'm possessed. It's an omen, I keep it 300. Like the Romans, 300. Where the Trojans, baby, be living in the moment. I've been a menace for the longest. And you know it, and you know it, and you know it, and you know it.
Come on. So The Wolf of Wall Street came out on Christmas Day 2013, directed by Martin Scorsese, one of the most famous and prolific directors of cinema history. Leonardo DiCaprio, who he has worked with many times before, plays Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, as he was named when he was on Wall Street at Stratton Oakmont, a stock broker on Wall Street. Eventually came across some financial charges, criminal charges, all that stuff. It is based on the actual events of Jordan Belfort. He wrote a book on all this, and that's where they pulled a lot of the inspiration from for the movie. Let's see, it grossed $400 million worldwide when it was released off of a $100 million budget, which is kind of up in the air on exactly how much this budget was. With it also got sucked into some financial scandals throughout the way with some are Saudi Arabian or some Arabic prince got involved. I'll talk about a little bit of that on the fun facts segment of today's show. But this was a big Oscar moment for Leo in 2013 when this came out. Everyone's like, okay, this is where he's finally going to get an Oscar. Martin Scorsese is probably going to get an Oscar for directing. That is not the case. Leo ended up getting his Oscar later on for The Revenant, which I think was a sham. He should have won his Oscar for this film. I wonder let me check who won Best Actor in that year. I believe that would have been 2014 when that came out. McConaughey won for Dallas Buyers Club, which is a funny story. McConaughey shows up in here as Mark Hanna. He was actually coming off of the set of Dallas Buyers Club when he came and did his scenes for Mark Hanna. So that's probably why you can kind of tell that he lost a lot of weight. Some of the scenes you can tell that he was gaining that weight slowly back. So that was really interesting that he outdid Leo for the Best Actor award that year, considering they shared that very iconic scene at lunch on Wall Street. So, which I'll be talking about a lot of Matthew McConaughey when I get to him. But yeah, this is one of my favorite films of all time. It's number 2 on my top 5 favorite films of all time. If Top Gun Maverick did not exist, this would be my favorite movie ever. When Top Gun Maverick came out, it just blew my mind away, and I had to knock down The Wolf of Wall Street to number 2 on that list. But it's still an incredible movie. I know a big knock on it over the years has been the length of it. Honestly, they could have given me another hour and I would have been just as happy. I think it clocks in at like 2 hours and like 45 minutes or something like that. Kind of it's a little bit under the 3 hour mark. I'm sure with bloopers and stuff like deleted scenes, you probably could get up to 3 hours. I would love to get a director's cut of this for Martin Scorsese, but it sounds like most of the stuff got thrown into here. The studio, of course, likes to chip away at the time of the film, but they kind of left this one alone for Martin Scorsese because, well, he's Martin Scorsese. You're not going to tell Martin how to make a movie. He's just going to tell you it's going to cost this much, and you're just going to write him a check. But it sounds like this one didn't cost too heck of a lot, considering how much money that Disney pumps into their Marvel movies now. That's probably because of CGI and all that stuff. Jonah Hill, when I get to him, he plays Donnie Azoff, kind of the number 2 to Leo in the film. He only took $60,000 to be in this movie because he just absolutely had to be in this movie. He took the very minimum that the SAG organization requires for an actor to be paid on a movie. So he's just like, I will take the minimum and I will do the best I can. And he is in a lot of the movie. Like, he is the second lead almost in this movie, and he got paid $60,000, which to me is a lot of money. But looking at the scope of Hollywood, that is a very, very, very small amount of money for a movie this big. That was a huge hit in 2013 into 2014 on Christmas Day. This is the first rated R movie I actually took my brother to. We went Christmas weekend, and we had a blast. It was incredible, blew my mind away. It solidified Leo DiCaprio as my favorite actor of all time. Still is. He's got a movie coming out in September that I'm super, super excited about with Paul Thomas Anderson. That is One Battle After the Next, I think is what it's called. Let me verify that for sure. I think it is One Battle After Next. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on it now. Yes, One Battle After Another by Paul Thomas Anderson will be coming out September. I will be seeing that for sure opening weekend. And then I will do a reaction to that as well. But yeah, this is a fantastic movie. Margot Robbie's first kind of project in Hollywood. Now she's becoming a household name, one of the top female actors of ever, basically. Matthew McConaughey, of course, already talked about him, but I'll talk about him more. But yeah, just a giant cast of who's who at the time. Leo, of course, has been in a bunch of Scorsese movies prior to this. Gangs of New York, The Departed, which is another one of my favorites of Scorsese. They did The Aviator together, which is a really good movie. Pretty long movie. I think it's even longer than this one. But Leo is fantastic in there. But yeah, it's really fantastic. Just absolutely love it. It's one of the most craziest movies you ever watch. Definitely not for kids. So kids, if you're listening to this episode, definitely do not watch this. There's a lot of nudity and swearing and just really, really bizarre behavior that you do not need to have your eyes to yet when you get older, for sure. But it's a really, really good movie. Kind of running through the cast list, we're going to break it up. So Jordan Belfort, like I said, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. He's a household name. He's been in the Hollywood sphere since he was a child, with the Gilbert Grape film, which is fantastic. Titanic as Jack, which is probably his most iconic. He went on to do other films, Inception with Christopher Nolan, The Departed, like I said, with Scorsese. Killers of the Flower Moon was another Scorsese movie that he did post this. Now he's switching over to Paul Thomas Anderson. I'm sure eventually, before Martin dies, he will be doing one more movie just to kind of cap out their relationship. But yeah, DiCaprio is just fantastic in here. He worked a lot with the actual Jordan Belfort, who you actually see at the very end of the film in that kind of, what do you call those, kind of help seminars where Leo comes out and speaking about, sell me this pen. The real Jordan Belfort introduces Jordan Belfort at the very beginning. He did not look great. I'm sure, a decade of drugs and alcohol and all the crazy stuff they did on Wall Street. It's affected him physically, but that was the real Jordan Belfort. So he actually put him in the film, which was an interesting choice. But yeah, I think Leo did a fantastic job as bringing, the real Jordan to life. Should have won an Oscar. Unfortunately, he did not win it for this one. Looking at what this did when it was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, did not win a single one, which is outrageous. Another reason why I do not care for the Academy Awards now. For Best Actor, which was Leo. Best Actor in a Supporting Role, which was Jonah Hill. Best Director, Martin Scorsese. Best Writing, Adapted Screenplay was Terrence Winter, who wrote the script. And then it was nominated for Best Movie of the Year. Didn't win a single thing, which is very, very bizarre. And unfortunately, this is not the Oscar that Leo will be remembered for. He won the Oscar for The Revenant, which I do not like whatsoever. It's a great movie. It's just I don't care for it. And now that it's the one that Leo won, it was like a makeup Academy Award pretty much because the Academy dropped the ball on it this year. It's tough because McConaughey is like outstanding in Dallas Buyers Club, and I absolutely love that movie. It's just Leo should have won for this role, but now he's going to be remembered for The Revenant, which sucks. But it is what it is. Donnie Azoff, played by Jonah Hill. Now, Donnie Azoff, from the research that I've done, is a mixture of a couple different people. Some of the names from the real events of this movie did not want to be linked to the film, so they changed the name, kind of combined like 2 or 3 different characters. But Jonah Hill is fantastic. He is an incredible actor. I think he's very underrated. He's mostly linked to, a lot of the comedy movies that he did with 21 Jump Street. Superbad is probably the most famous that he's been in. But then once he started to get into the more serious roles like Moneyball, that's where kind of Scorsese noticed him, was when he did Moneyball with Brad Pitt, which he's phenomenal in there. And he kind of channeled that into his Donnie Azoff role in The Wolf of Wall Street. But no, he's really, really underrated. He did, almost a decade or so of just comedies with, I'm drawing a blank now. The Apatow era, that's kind of where he lives in with Superbad, The Babysitter, stuff like that. Then he did films that weren't as great, like Get Him to the Greek, The Watch, which was, I enjoy The Watch. It's not like the greatest comedy ever made, but that one was the Neighborhood Watch one with Ben Stiller and Bruce, with Vince Vaughn. 21 Jump Street with Channing Tatum, which I absolutely love. I'm planning on doing those 2 movies eventually on this podcast because I love them. Another serious one he did was True Story with James Franco, based on the actual murderer. What was the name of that one? Let me pull that up here. Oh, yeah, he did that god-awful. Well, it wasn't awful, but I wasn't a big fan of it. That Netflix movie, Don't Look Up, with Leo. So he's worked with him post this, which was really good. War Dogs with Miles Teller. That one was pretty good. Where is... Wow, it's a really good podcasting right now. I'm trying to find True Story here because I don't remember where. I'm just going to search it. This is going to bug me. Oh, I think it was Chris Long. That was the killer who killed his family. Let me see here. Yeah. True Story. Christian Longo. That's what it was, based off of the real murder. So sidetrack there. That was just bugging me. So yeah, Jonah Hill, fantastic. I love the beach house scene is ridiculous, where he is just trashed out of his mind. He pulls his penis out in front of Margot Robbie, which I don't know the research on it. That might have been a prosthetic, but knowing Jonah Hill, it might have been his real penis, but I don't remember for sure on I'm gonna have to research that. But no, he's fantastic in here. No wonder he was nominated for supporting actor, and I think he probably should have won. I'd have to look up who was the nominees of that. Actually, I could probably just do that now because it's going to drive me nuts. So the Academy Award nominees in 2014. Let's see. Well, we know Dallas Buyers Club was one of them. So McConaughey was in there. Let's see if we can pull this up here. That is the winners. I don't want the winners. Which films were nominated? Nope. Okay, here we go. So, we had Captain Phillips that year. Her starring Joaquin Phoenix, 12 Years a Slave, Gravity. Oh, yeah, that was American Hustle year. Dallas Buyers Club obviously won. Then we had McConaughey, Leonardo DiCaprio, Bruce Dern, Christian Bale. Yeah, God, that's tough. McConaughey versus Leo. Oh, man. Let's see who's support director here. Let's see. David O. Russell, Martin Scorsese, Alfonso, Stephen Queen. Nah, Scorsese should have won that. That was ridiculous. That is utter bullcrap. Who do we got for supporting? Jared Leto, Bradley Cooper. Yeah, Jonah Hill should have won that too. Michael Fassbender. Oh my God. They really dropped the ball. They should have won at least 3 or 4 Oscars there. No, that's a tough one with Leo and The Wolf of Wall Street and McConaughey and Dallas Buyers Club. That's like the heavy hitters of Best Actor. That's the competition that you want to see at these award shows. And honestly, if I was on the Academy board, I would lean towards Leo, but I would need like a week to myself with a bottle of like vodka to decide which of those two I wanted. Man, that's a tough race there. But no, this movie should have won at least. Jonah Hill should have definitely won supporting actor, and Scorsese should have won best director. Just looking at that list briefly, that's just ridiculous. This should have won at least 3 Oscars. That really irritates me. But moving on, so we have Naomi, played by Margot Robbie, who has just become one of the top actresses in Hollywood right now. Of course, she had Barbie recently last year. She dipped her toe into DC Universe as Harley Quinn. She was in Amsterdam, a David O. Russell film with Christian Bale. She was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Quentin Tarantino, which she was really good in there, as well as Sharon Tate. That's another movie I'm hoping to do on the podcast as well. I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, another great Leo film. But yeah, so this, I, Tanya, this is going to be like the one that she's remembered for most, though. This and Barbie, I think. She just went full nudity in here, full frontal, gave it everything she had. A famous story with the auditioning with her in that scene where her and Jordan Belfort are fighting. She is supposed to basically, if I remember right, she was supposed to like spit on him or just yell at him. She ended up in her audition changing that to where she actually slaps Leo, and that's kind of how Scorsese ultimately decided to cast her as Naomi, because of that spirit and that just energy that she brought to the set. So this movie is completely different if Margot Robbie was not cast as Naomi. I know there was a bunch of other. I wonder if I have it in my notes. There was some other people considered. Like Olivia Wilde audition for Naomi, but that's a completely different movie. So without Margot Robbie, I don't think this movie is as great as it was. But yeah, she's fantastic as the Duchess of Bayside. Yeah, she's just phenomenal in here. Moving on to the next casting, we got Kyle Chandler's character, Agent Patrick Denham, who is the FBI agent in charge of taking down Jordan Belfort, basically, in all of his criminal mischief that he's been doing on Wall Street. Kyle Chandler, very underrated actor, I think. I really like him. I'm super excited for him to be one of the new Green Lanterns in the James Gunn DC universe. But he's been in a bunch of movies: Argo, Super 8, King Kong, Manchester by the Sea. He was a part of the Godzilla universe. Game Night he was in. But yeah, I really like him in here as Agent Denham. Just kind of your average guy doing his job, taking down the criminals of Wall Street. So Kyle Chandler was really good in here. We've got Brad, played by John Bernthal, who is becoming one of my favorite actors ever. Of course, he's playing the Punisher right now in the Marvel Universe. He's in Christopher Nolan's Odyssey film, along with Tom Holland and Matt Damon coming out. He was in the Accountant series with Ben Affleck. He was in the Walking Dead series for AMC. He's just a really, really incredible actor. Him as Brad, he doesn't get a lot of scenes in here, but it's very memorable scenes. Like the way that he can basically sell anything. He's the one that sells Leo the pen at the cafe. Sell me this pen. He goes, okay, do me a favor, write your name on that napkin there for me. He goes, I don't have a pen. There you go, supply and demand. He phenomenal. Ford v Ferrari is another one that I really like him in. Not a big role that he had, but he's really, really good in there. And the Accountant, he's fantastic. So John Bernthal, just absolutely love him. Matthew McConaughey, Mark Hanna. So we're going to get to, this is, the Mark Hanna scenes in here are probably my favorite, with the First Day on Wall Street. He's the hot shot broker that's in charge of this little gang that Jordan Belfort starts off back in 1982 or 81 is when he started on Wall Street, right before that Black Monday or whatever happened. But yeah, just the energy. He's got the really bad 80s hair. He's, of course, thinned out, like I said, because he was filming Dallas Buyers Club prior to this. But no, those scenes are definitely my favorite. The lunch scene is really good, where he's describing what exactly happens in Wall Street. And I'm going to go over this in the quotes because I have the whole speech written down. But he's talking about, we don't make anything. We don't sell anything. We just, we take the client's money, put it in our pocket, and we go on our way. And then Leo is like, Jordan Belfort's like, well, if we can make the client money too, then it's kind of a win-win. And without missing a beat, McConaughey just goes, shakes his head, no, that's not what we do. So the bit right there is like the essence and the goal of what Wall Street is. It's about getting rich. It's taking money out of your client's bank account, putting it in yours via commission, as McConaughey says. But then they do, the big heartbeat, do, which a lot of football teams has now adapted. But yeah, those scenes with Mark Hanna are incredible, where he's like, you're going to, every 15 minutes, you're going to bring us 2 martinis. And then after that, you're going to bring us every 5 minutes until we pass out, stuff like that. Does the cocaine. He does the masturbation thing, where it's not a suggestion, it's a prescription. Just those scenes are incredible. He's in the movie for like a total of 10-15 minutes, and he's like the best part of it. So just really, really cooking in the small amount of time that he had. He's just phenomenal in here. Then we have Max Belfort, aka Mad Max, who is played by Rob Reiner. He is Jordan Belfort's dad, kind of the overseer of finances and trying to protect his kid from getting into trouble. Rob Reiner is great in here. The fact that he does the British accent when he answers the phone is just perfect. And that whole T&E versus TNA thing with Jonah Hill was phenomenal. Rob Reiner's great in here. I absolutely love him. He's kind of like the voice of reason to Jordan Belfort through this whole thing, and then eventually, when the chickens come home to roost, as he says, Jordan realized that his dad was right the entire time. So really, really love Rob Reiner in here. Jon Favreau makes a brief appearance in here as Manny Riskin, kind of the lawyer / legal counsel for Jordan Belfort once the CC, basically the feds and the CC, whatever the hell they are, the cops of Wall Street, the SSC, that's what it is, the Security Council, whatever, come after Jordan for financial fraud. He, again, kind of like Rob Reiner's character, is like the voice of reason, trying to get Jordan Belfort to understand, like, hey, just take the plea deal. You pay a couple millions in fines. You can move on. You'll have to relinquish your ownership of Stratton Oakmont, but Donnie Azoff can kind of take over. Jordan doesn't like that. He built it. He wants to die with it. So Favreau's really good. Now he's a director. So is Rob Reiner. But he's fantastic as Manny Riskin. So great to see John Favreau. Then you have Jordan Belfort's kind of merry bang of. He's basically Robin Hood, and he's got his little merry men. They got Rugrat, Chester, Pinhead, and Sea Otter, along with Brad, if you want to loop him in there. Those guys are ridiculous, especially, Rugrat, which I've seen in a couple movies now. I don't remember the actor's name. But he's got that really bad toupee or whatever, which is why they call him Rugrat. Chester Ming actually gained some weight when I did the research for this role. Pinhead's kind of a dummy, but he kind of shape out the group for sure. And then Sea Otter is just a ridiculous nickname and ridiculous person. You can kind of imagine that Jordan hangs out with these guys basically to lift himself up because they're so stupid and ridiculous. Brad is probably the smartest of the group, and then Donnie is just kind of, he's a little bit smarter, but he's also dumb in his own way. But it's fun seeing those. My favorite out of the four is probably Rugrat, just because a few times during the movie they make fun of his hair and he takes it so seriously, like it's the best hair ever. But yeah, I just figured I'd mention the ragtag team that Leo surrounds himself with throughout this movie. Then you have his first wife, Teresa, by Christine Milioti, who has been a really important figure now in Hollywood. She's been in a bunch of stuff lately. But that is Jordan Belfort's first wife. She's probably the best person in this movie. From like a ethnical standpoint, everybody else is a piece of crap in here. Like even Naomi, to an extent, is kind of a piece of shit because she knew Jordan was married at the time and she still went along with the affair. But no, she's right up there with the clients that Stratton Oakmont screwed over. She's a victim of this story. She kind of knew about her husband's, legal shit. But at the end of the day, I lump her in with the victims of this story as one of the better people of this story. She's only in the first half of the movie, and then she ends up getting replaced by Naomi Belfort. But she's great. I love Christine Milioti. She's in the Penguin series for DC. She was in Black Mirror. But yeah, she was great. Palm Springs with Annie Samberg, which I love her in. But she's really good in here as Jordan Belfort's first wife. I wanted to make sure I mentioned her because she's truly ethically the best person. Lump her in with all the victims of the Stratton Oakmont. So that kind of rounds out the cast. There's a bunch of other people that pop up, like Kimmy. I really don't like her. Then you have some other. Oh, who is the other one? You got Aunt Emma, who is just kind of in her own little world over in London. She's played by Joanna Lumley. Shea Wiggum shows up as Captain Ted, which I loved. PJ Byrne, that's who Rugrat was. I was trying to think of his name, but that's who. Ethan Suplee shows up. If you've seen My Name is Earl and Remember the Titans, all that. He plays Toby, one of the other miscreants of Stratton Oakmont. Jake Hoffman, who is the son of Dustin Hoffman, comes in as Steve Madden. The IPO scene that was really good. I want to suck you off, Steve. But yeah, just a long list of casts that I can spend like an hour going through this, but I will not because we have a show to move on to. So, kind of covered it already. This is based off the real life story of Jordan Belfort on his time at Wall Street, where he started up his own brokerage firm called Stratton Oakmont. Eventually, they started doing some illegal shit, like stealing from their clients, with the pink sheets and all that. Then eventually, the Steve Madden IPO comes into play, where him and Donnie basically own like 80% of Steve Madden, which is very illegal on how they did it. And that's kind of where the SEC is coming after them. They're basically Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and putting it into their own pockets, as they say in there. Then eventually he realized that he messed up. He goes and leaves Wall Street, does business seminars, writes a book or two, I think. So yeah, and from what Jordan Belfort has said in interviews and stuff like that, most of this stuff actually happened. Maybe some of the timeline got mixed up a little bit. Some of the scenes might have happened too closely together because it's a movie and they have a time crunch. But a lot of this seemed to actually happen. The Quaalude stuff really happens. The crazy plane explosion where the bird hits the engine and it blows up the plane that was supposed to save them after the Naomi yacht tipped over. That really happened. The timeline was a little bit skewed. That happened, I think, a couple days before or after the ship crashed. But it still actually happened. It's a lot of this movie sounds like it actually did happen the way that it did because they had Jordan Belfort and the book that they went off of. So really, really incredible that they were able to stay pretty accurate to what really happened. So, and it blows my mind that this shit actually happens on Wall Street. Martin Scorsese, talked about him a little bit, but he is fantastic director. One of my favorite directors ever. Another one of my favorite films of his is The Departed, which I will be doing. It's on the schedule for next year, actually. I love that film as much as this one. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more when I get to the Martin Scorsese rankings later on at the show. But Martin did a fantastic job in here. The only knock that I get him for this movie is the music. I wasn't a really big fan of the music in here, just because it wasn't really like a big theme to it. It was kind of all over the place with blues and jazz and hip hop and rock and just a big old cluster of different genres. There wasn't really like a streamlined, this is the vibe of the movie. It's more chaotic, which maybe that's what he was going for. There's a lot of drugs involved, a lot of alcohol involved, a lot of crazy stuff happening. So maybe it's like a weird hypnotic dream where you're just listening to all these different genres of music at one time. I think that's how he's kind of explained it over the years in interviews. But he did a great job directing it and helping out with the script and making it one of the best movies of his career. We'll go over my top 5 of his films, and maybe this is my favorite. I don't want to step too much into rankings, but he's definitely in my top 5 directors of all time. And this is one of the reasons why he is this movie here. Favorite quotes. I wrote these down. There's a ton of quotes in this movie, but I picked my top, I think I did 10 of them just to kind of keep it not too chaotic. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I got about 10 on here. So I'm going to run through these real quick. So this first one from Jordan Belfort. Let me tell you something. There's no nobility in poverty. I have been a rich man and I have been a poor man. And I choose rich every fucking time. I mean, that's kind of the base. That's kind of like the tagline of the movie. He just wants to be rich. You can solve all your problems with being rich. This is where the movie opens up with, and I opened up the podcast as well with my little version of it. My name is Jordan Belfort. I am a former member of the middle class, raised by 2 accountants in a tiny apartment in Bayside, Queens. The year I turned 26, as the head of my own brokerage firm, I made $49 million, which really pissed me off because it was 3 shy of $1 million a week. Really, really good line reading by by Leo DiCaprio. I think that one is one of my favorite lines of the movie, just by the way Leo is able to say it. Another one by Jordan Belfort. On a daily basis, I consume enough drugs to sedate Manhattan, Long Island, and Queens for a month. I take Quaaludes 10 to 15 times a day for my back pain. Adderall to stay focused. Xanax to take the edge off. Pot to mellow me out, and cocaine to wake me back up again. And morphine, well, because it's awesome. Basically laying out his entire regimen for the day as far as drugs. And he did that every day, the real Jordan Belfort. That is why he's so chaotic and so weird to be around, because this was his regimen for years and years and years on Wall Street. He took all these drugs every day. That amount of drugs every day would just ruin your brain. So no wonder he kind of went off the rails there towards the end. Another one by Jordan Belfort. You had to deal with the golf course people too. What a Greek tragedy. You probably paid them in cash with your hands. What a fucking burden. And actually had to do some work besides swiping my fucking credit card all day. This is where he's fighting with Margot Robbie about his night with Venice, the prostitute that he paid for, and she's throwing the water at him. It's such a great scene where and that's one thing that I didn't talk about with Margot Robbie, and I should have. If you've seen My Cousin Vinny, you're gonna know this reference. I think she watched Marissa Tomei scenes before doing this because she sounds exactly like Marissa Tomei in My Cousin Vinny, with their daughter's name is Skylar, so she goes Skyla, like the accent that they do in New York, or New Jersey or whatever she's from. So that's the one thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about Margot Robbie. I think she had to have sat down and watched My Cousin Vinny a bunch of times and just kind of took inspiration for Marissa Tomei's accent in there. But yeah, that scene with the water is really, really good, about Venice. Like, who what are you, a fucking owl? I should have put that one in there, but I didn't. But so many great lines in this movie. But that scene is just living rent free in my head, with Naomi throwing water at him, and he's freaking out, talking about who the hell is Venice, and then he starts going with this line about how she stays at home, swipes his credit card, doing landscaping, all these other projects that she does. So it was really, really good, really well casted, and good chemistry between Margot Robbie and Leo DiCaprio, because that scene doesn't work. Especially, and then another great scene is the nursery scene where Margot Robbie's like, "Daddy's never allowed to touch mommy ever again." If the chemistry doesn't work between Leo and Margot, this film falls apart really, really quick. So the fact that they had really good chemistry holds this movie up and makes it as great as it is. This one by Mark Hanna. So if you've got a client who bought stock at 8, now it's at 16, and he's acting all fucking happy. He wants to cash in, liquidate, take his fucking money, and run home. You don't let him do that, because that would make it real. That's like the recipe of what Wall Street is. On paper, like he says, the client's making a bunch of money. But what these brokers are doing is they're bringing in commission for these sales, quote unquote sales, and putting that the commission cash in their pocket. And that's how they're getting paid. So yeah, like he said, they don't make anything. They don't really sell anything. It's just a matter of, okay, this stock looks good. I'm predicting the market here. Put this amount of money in there. And then when the client says, okay, I want to buy 10,000 shares, the broker takes a portion of that for commission for making the sale. So that's a really interesting way to describe, but it's the truth behind Wall Street. This is exactly what happens on Wall Street. These brokers are living off of these commissions. They're selling you these stocks on where they predict them going, and try to get their clients' money to increase, double, triple, whatever it is. So really interesting line to put in there. Another one by Jordan Belfort. So you listen to me and you listen well. Are you behind on your credit card bills? Good. Pick up the phone and start dialing. Is your landlord ready to evict you? Good. Pick up the phone and start dialing. Does your girlfriend think you're a fucking worthless loser? Good. Pick up the phone and start dialing. I want you to deal with your problems by becoming rich. That is the philosophy behind Jordan Belfort. That is the philosophy behind Stratton Oakmont. Is I want you to come in, make a shitload of money, and solve all your problems outside of the company. That is the philosophy of Jordan Belfort. Make as much money as you can to solve your problems. That is the only way that you're ever going to be happy in life, is to have an abundance of money to deal with your shit. This one by Kyle Chandler's character, Patrick Denham. Hey, Jordan, let me give you some legal advice. Shut the fuck up. That's basically me if I was a cop. If I got this arrogant 20-year-old who I'm arresting, and he's talking his mouth off, I'm gonna say this exact line to him. This is the best legal advice I can give you. Shut the hell up. I just love how Kyle Chandler delivers that. Now, this line I use every day, even at work. This one by Rugrat, and I stole it from this movie. Turn your fucking brain on. So that whole Moby Dick, Captain Ahab story where they're fighting over what the hell is Jordan talking about, and he's like, have you ever read Moby Dick, the book? And Rugrat comes in, turn your brain on. the book, the famous Moby Dick story. So whenever I know anybody that's like acting dumb or just doesn't remember anything, I pull this line out all the time. Turn your fucking brain on. It's one of my favorite lines of the movie. This last one from Jordan Belfort. John, one thing I can promise you, even in this market, is that I never ask my clients to judge me on my winners. I ask them to judge me on my losers because I have so few. That is kind of how he's able to manipulate the client in order to buy these worthless, crappy stocks to put money into his pocket. He's just a really good salesman. And this line here shows you that he spends his energy connecting with the client for a couple minutes, making him look like a good guy, but in reality he's not. But I wanted to mention this line because that's how he was able to pull this off for so long. He made a connection. He with the client. He made it seem like he was a good guy, and they fell for it. And he's just a really good sleazy salesman. And then the last line from that I wanted to mention was from the T&E scene with Rob Reiner and Jonah Hill. So Donnie Azoff says the IRS, they allow for T&A. It's fine. Max Belfort comes in. T&E. T&E. It's T&E, not T&A. That scene again lives rent free with them screaming back at each other. T&A, T&E. Rob Reiner saying T&E like 20,000 times. And Jonah Hill's just laughing and being very serious that it's T&A. No, I said T&E. No, you said T&A. It's so good, so good. So I had to mention that line in there. So going over some fun facts to wrap things up here. Actors snorted crushed up B vitamins in the scenes involving cocaine. I believe Jonah Hill actually ended up getting bronchitis on set because of all the snorting, which is dedication to you, my friend, for that 60 grand. Majority of the film's dialogue was improvised, which no surprise there because Martin Scorsese really encourages improvising. With Jonah Hill's experience on the Judd Apatow movies that he did in the early 2000s, a lot of those movies were basically built on improvising all those lines, all those jokes. So Jonah Hill really, really fits well with this movie with that kind of approach to this film with improvising a lot of the lines. I mentioned it a bunch of times already, but yep, Jonah Hill was paid $60,000 to be in the film. He called up Martin Scorsese. He's like, hey, I want to audition. I want to role in this. I will take the minimum that you can offer me, and that is the SAG minimum is 60 grand at the time. Steven Spielberg actually visited the set. He showed up during the Steve Madden IPO speech. Scorsese still to this day claims that Spielberg essentially co-directed that scene. He was giving advice to actors and suggesting different camera angles. So that's a pretty cool move that these two high caliber directors are allowing each other to direct scenes on their film. You would imagine with these guys be like, oh, this is my movie, back off, go do your ET, go do your Jaws crap. This is my movie. The respect that Spielberg and Scorsese have for each other is really, really awesome that they are able to allow them. I mean, that's the kind of director I would be. If you think a scene can be better than how I planned it, tell me. Help me work with it because I want to give the best version of this movie possible. So that is really cool that they're able to work together. The word fuck is used 569 times. It broke the Guinness Book of World Records for the most swear words at 681. That equals to about 3 to 4 swear words a minute. That is freaking incredible. I've said the word fuck on this podcast the most ever since I started this podcast. So sorry, kids, if you're listening to this. The language is not very friendly today, but that's the kind of movie we're talking about today. In the scene where Donnie eats a goldfish, the goldfish was actually real. Jonah Hill was allowed to keep the goldfish in his mouth for 3 seconds. There, of course, were animal handlers on the set to help facilitate this. But that is crazy that he put an actual goldfish in his mouth for 3. He was not allowed to swallow it. He could have it sit in there for 3 minutes. They would cut away, and he would spit the goldfish out. Danny Porsche, I think it's Porsche. He is the actual name of Donnie Azoff, Nadine Belfort is Naomi. So these are name changes that were made to protect the real people. Let's see. Agent Gregory Coleman is the real name. Patrick Denham is the movie name for Kyle Chandler's character. John Favreau's character, Manny Riskin, his real name is Ira Lee Sorkin. So that was, I just wanted to include those are the names that were changed to protect the real people in there. I mentioned this already. Olivia Wilde auditioned for the role of Naomi Belfort. And then the last one here, the financial scandal involving Leo and the production budget of the film. Let me look this up here. So, like I said, there was this kind of prince from like Saudi Arabia or something where that like helped pay for the budget of this film. And Leo was partying with him. And they ended up getting into some legal issues. During that whole trial process, the movie ended up coming up. Let me see if I can pull this up here. Wolf of Wall Street was partly funded with money stolen from a Malaysian sovereign wealth fund. The U.S. Department of Justice investigated the scandal, alleging that over $100 million was used to finance the film. The movie's production company was 1MDB, I think is what it looks like. Red Granite Pictures was implicated in the scandal and agreed to pay $60 million fine to the U.S. government. So yeah, basically they were using stolen funds to fund this movie, which is crazy. 1MDB was established in Malaysia to promote economic development. I know there was some kind of prince involved too. I don't see his name here. The investigation also implicated actor Leonardo DiCaprio as he received a gift of a Marlon Brando Oscar that was allegedly purchased with the stolen funds. DiCaprio later surrendered that statue as part of the invest. My God, they got their hands on Marlon Brando's Oscar too. That is freaking wild. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I know there is this company co-founded by Riza Aziz, the stepson of a Malaysian's then prime minister, was accused of using stolen money to produce The Wolf of Wall Street and other films. So yeah, there you go. That's the link there. He was the prime minister's stepson. Stole a bunch of money to help pay for The Wolf of Wall Street. That's freaking nuts that Leo and Martin got their hands and got mixed up in all that crap. So that's ridiculous. But yeah, so that basically wraps up The Wolf of Wall Street. It's an incredible movie. The cast is just incredible. The script was awesome. Martin Scorsese did a fantastic job at directing it. One of the best films, I think, of the century. One of my favorite films. It's number 2 on my list just because of the Top Gun Maverick existence. But yeah, I enjoy watching. I've seen this movie probably 30 times, and I want to see it 300 more times. It's just really good. Every time I watch it, it doesn't feel too long. I know a lot of people feel like the length needs to be cut down, but I don't know what you would cut in this movie. Like, everything fits. You need everything to make it a coherent movie. And it's just really, really well made, really, really well done. And it's just a really fun time. So many different quotes. I only gave you 10 of them. There's probably 50 more I could have listed off. But yeah, I just absolutely, absolutely love this movie. If for some reason you're listening to this podcast and you've never seen The Wolf of Wall Street, definitely go see it. It's not going to be a waste of your time. Leo DiCaprio is incredible. The rest of the cast is awesome. I just absolutely, absolutely love this movie. So to wrap up the episode today, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to go over some rankings. So let's head over to rankings. So for today's ranking segment, I'm going to go over my top 5 favorite Leo movies, top 5 Martin Scorsese movies, and then we're going to have another blockbuster showdown where I pit The Social Network versus The Wolf of Wall Street. So starting off with Leo. Number 5, I got Catch Me If You Can. This is the Steven Spielberg film where Leo goes up against Tom Hanks. Leo is a professional forger who is impersonating a bunch of different jobs to make money. Tom Hanks is a FBI agent tasked to take down Frank Abagnale, who is Leo's character. So really good cat and mouse game. Came out in 2002, so very early, very still young Leo. But yeah, it's a really good cat and mouse game. It's got a bunch of different actors. Christopher Walken pops up in there. Amy Adams, a very young Amy Adams, pops up in there. James Brolin is in there. Brian Howell. Yeah, just a really good cast, really good story. Even Martin Sheen pops up in there, which is cool. Number 5. This is where I put Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino film about Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth. Leo DiCaprio plays actor Rick Dalton, and Brad Pitt plays his stunt double Cliff Booth. Really awesome movie. Another great film with a bunch of great actors. Quentin Tarantino, my favorite director of all time. Yeah, Leo is fantastic in here as Rick Dalton. We get to see him on various different movie sets. He's kind of dealing with his own stuff about trying to get his career going. Feels like he's not in these projects that are going to skyrocket him. Eventually, he lands a bunch of spaghetti westerns out in France and kind of rebrands himself and gets some more acting gigs later on. Really, really awesome movie. Absolutely love it. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's got a really good Brad Pitt performance, really good Leo performance. Number 3, this is where I got Django Unchained, another Quentin Tarantino film. This stars Jamie Foxx as Django, Christoph Waltz as King Schultz, Dr. King Schultz, and then Leo as Calvin Candy, the kind of antagonist of the film, if you would. Leo runs a slave plantation. Jamie Foxx is on a mission to find his wife after he was freed from slavery by Christoph Waltz's character, and they run into Calvin Candy, Leo. That scene where they're at dinner and he is looking at the skull and he's smashing the skull with a hammer. He actually cut his finger in real life on that set. That scene was why this is number 3. He is fantastic as the villain, so to speak, in this film. So definitely check that out if you haven't. Number 2 is The Departed. This is one of Martin Scorsese's movies. Leo plays Billy Costigan going up against Matt Damon's Colin and Jack Nicholson's Costello. This is a Irish mob-like movie. Leo is an undercover statey who is tasked with infiltrating Jack Nicholson's crew. Matt Damon is a inside man for Jack Nicholson, who is kind of the mole, so to speak, in the State Department in New York. Yeah, it's just a really good crime movie. Absolutely love it. So many quotes that I could pull from it, and Leo is fantastic in there as Billy Costigan. So can't wait to talk about that movie on a future episode. Then at number 1, surprise, surprise, is The Wolf of Wall Street. For all the reasons that I've already stated in today's episode, this is my favorite Leo performance, favorite everything. He's so good in here as Jordan Belfort. He should have won the Oscar for this, and it is a huge shame that he did not. So that is my top 5 Leo performances. I'm going to move on to my top 5 Scorsese's. You could probably guess what my favorite ones are going to be, but we're going to run through the list here. Number 5, Shutter Island. This is a Leo DiCaprio film alongside Mark Ruffalo. They are investigating a murder or disappearance at a mental institution, but it turns out through a bunch of twists that Leo is actually a patient here who is kind of playing the role of a U.S. Marshal. So really, really good psychological thriller, so to speak. So that is number 5. Number 4, another Martin Scorsese movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. Leo DiCaprio as Ernest Buckhart, who is a returning home from the army. He is living with his uncle, played by Robert De Niro, doing into the family business to make some money. He meets Lily Gladstone's character, marrying her, have kids, and then this kind of dark scheme that they're playing against Lily Gladstone's family. They are a very prominent Native American family, so that Robert De Niro has kind of befriended that family to make money, so they get mixed up into a lot of crime and all that. So really good performance by Leo. Really great film from Martin Scorsese. Goodfellas. This is at number 3. We have Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta, rest in peace, my friend. Really, really good film of kind of similar to. It's got Wolf of Wall Street vibes to it. Granted, I know this came out before, but I actually didn't see Goodfellas until after I saw Wolf of Wall Street. These two I find a lot of similarities in. Ray Liotta is like a Jordan Belfort character in here. He plays Henry Hill, kind of the leader of this mob organization that they started. Joe Pesci pops up in there. Robert De Niro, like I said. This is like the essence of Martin Scorsese. He loves these Irish mobster gang movies. And this is one of his best that he has done. That's why it's at number 3. I really, really enjoy Goodfellas. It's an interesting double feature, actually. If you watch this, then watch Wolf of Wall Street, you'll see all those very similarities. I mean, Ray Liotta even narrates it a lot, just like Leo does as Jordan Belfort. So it's really, really cool. Definitely check it out if you haven't. Number 2 is The Departed. I've talked about this already with in my Leo rankings. It's a phenomenal movie, one of my favorite movies of all time, and I can quote like 100 different lines from here. So that is why it's number 2. And then, like I said, surprise, surprise, The Wolf of Wall Street is my favorite Martin Scorsese movie for everything that I've talked about on today's episode. Wolf of Wall Street is, in my opinion, is Goodfellas on steroids. I think Goodfellas walked so that The Wolf of Wall Street could run. It's just, I love double featuring those two movies together, having a Martin Scorsese marathon, having a Leo and Ray Liotta marathon. I was kind of surprised that Robert De Niro wasn't in this movie. Through my research, I don't think I saw anything about De Niro being mentioned, because he is like a really big part of the Scorsese filmography before Leo kind of joined the front. Now Leo has been kind of his guy. But yeah, I was very surprised that Robert De Niro didn't have a role in this movie at all. Maybe there just wasn't a spot for him. Would have been interesting to maybe have him. I love Rob Reiner, but maybe at the time, maybe De Niro would have played Belfort's dad. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. Or maybe Bodito, but Bodito was really funny. I didn't talk about Bodito, but I love that scene where he's like, Jordan, are you on the phone? Are you on the fucking phone? I know maybe that could have been a De Niro part, sitting at the Italian restaurant giving shit to Leo, but that's just a sliding door moment to see if De Niro was in there. So that is my top 5 Martin Scorsese's. I'll post that on social media as well. Now I'll do a final bit of business. That is the blockbuster showdown between The Social Network and The Wolf of Wall Street. This is a tough one because I give them both the Golden Bucket Award in the popcorn bucket tier, so they're kind of evened out. But I'm gonna have The Wolf of Wall Street as the winner. It's my second favorite movie of all time. It's my favorite Leo movie, favorite Scorsese movie. I love The Social Network. If you haven't seen that episode, check it out. I had a blast rewatching that movie. But yeah, for today's blockbuster showdown, I'm having The Wolf of Wall Street as the winner. You're probably not surprised by how much I've been talking good things about the film. So that'll do it for today's episode. I think the next movie that we're going to tackle on the show is End of Watch. We're going to start this double feature detective series with End of Watch starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Mike Pena. And then we're going to tackle Training Day with Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. So we're gonna have a cop double feature on the next 2 episodes. So be on the lookout for those. Then as always, check out the show every week at youtube.com or listen to the audio versions on your favorite podcast platform. And then check out my football podcast, The End Zone Report, where I tackle the NFL every week. The next episode on that podcast will actually be a live mock draft that I'll be doing with some coworkers, family members, and friends. That'll be coming out on August 17th. So be on the lookout for that. So until then, remember, There's no nobility in poverty. I want you to deal with your problems by becoming rich. Later, everyone.